So here's the website, folks, and I'm just recording this because I want to cross-promote this truth as much as possible. You must read this entire book. I guarantee you this is the best book you've ever read outside the Bible, because it explains the flood of Noah in a way you've never heard it and understood it before. And it's more dramatic than you've ever believed. And this man was ordained by God to receive these revelations of how the flood of Noah happened and how epic it actually was. It's all online, free. You know someone is working for the truth when they share it all freely and they spend their entire life traveling the world discussing this and sharing this with people. CreationScience.com. Go read it all tonight. It's the best book you've ever read outside the Bible. I promise you. Okay, now listen to this man as an introduction. I'm just going to record this video de facto. This will blow your mind. We're going to back it up to the very beginning. So here's the website. I encourage you to, this is so fascinating. This is more enlightening and engaging than anything you'll ever watch.
We can see on our planet 17 very strange features which can now be systematically explained as a result of a cataclysmic global flood whose waters erupted from subterranean chambers with an energy release exceeding the explosion of 10 billion hydrogen bombs. This explanation shows us just how rapidly major mountains form. It explains the coal and oil deposits, the rapid continental drift, why on the ocean floor there are huge trenches and hundreds of canyons and volcanoes. It explains the formation of the layered strata in most of the fossils, the frozen mammoths, the so-called ice ages, and major land canyons, especially the Grand Canyon. The pre-flood Earth probably had only one very large supercontinent covered with lush vegetation. There were seas and major rivers. The mountains were smaller than today's, but perhaps 9,000 feet high. According to the hydroplate theory, the pre-flood Earth had a lot of subterranean water, about half of what is now in our oceans. This water was contained in interconnected chambers, forming a thin spherical shell, about half a mile thick, perhaps 10 miles below the Earth's surface. Increasing pressure in the subterranean water stretched the crust, just as a balloon stretches when the pressure inside increases. Failure in the crust began with a microscopic crack which grew in both directions at about 3 miles per second. The crack, following the path of least resistance, encircled the globe in about 2 hours. As the crack raced around the Earth, the overlying rock crust opened up like a rip in a tightly stretched cloth. The subterranean water was under extreme pressure because of the weight of the 10 miles of rock pressing down on it. So the water exploded violently out of the rupture. All along this globe-encircling rupture, fountains of water jetted supersonically, almost 20 miles into the atmosphere. The spray from this enormous fountain produced torrential rains, such as the Earth has never experienced, before or after. The Bible states that all the fountains of the great deep burst open on one day. And it describes these events about 5,000 years ago, which we can now tie together scientifically. Some of the water jetting high above the cold stratosphere rose into supercooled ice crystals and produced some massive ice dumps, burying, suffocating, and instantly freezing many animals, including the frozen mammoths of Siberia and Alaska. The high-pressure fountains eroded the rock on both sides of the crack, producing huge volumes of sediments that settled out of this muddy water all over the Earth. These sediments trapped and buried plants and animals, forming the fossil record. This erosion widened the rupture. Eventually, the width was so great that the compressed rock beneath the subterranean chamber sprung upward, giving birth to the mid-oceanic ridge that wraps around the Earth like the seam of a baseball. The continental plates, the hydroplates, still with lubricating water beneath them, slid downhill away from the rising mid-Atlantic ridge. After the massive, slowly accelerating continental plates reached speeds of about 45 miles per hour, they ran into resistances, compressed, and buckled. The portions of the hydroplate that buckled down formed ocean trenches. Those that buckled upward formed mountains. This is why the major mountain chains are parallel to the oceanic ridges from which they slid. The hydroplates, in sliding away from the oceanic ridges, opened up very deep ocean basins into which the floodwaters retreated. On the continents, each bowl-shaped depression or basin was naturally left brimful of water, producing many post-flood lakes.
The demonstration you have just witnessed of a massive worldwide catastrophe in antiquity supports the biblical story of the deluge in every detail.
So read the whole book. It will blow your mind. Buy the book. It's the best $20 you've never spent. Like, get it now. It's better than any book you've ever read outside the Bible. In this book, he explains everything on planet Earth, physically, why it's there, why it looks the way that it does, and it will show you what the pre-flood Earth looked like compared to the post-flood Earth which we now live in. So the book is all online free. You can read it all on this website right now if you want to, creationscience.com. The whole book is right here with the table of contents. I encourage you to buy the book. This is what it looks like. It is the most beautiful textbook I've ever held in my hands. Order it today. Read it as fast as you can, and then read it to your kids at as young an age as they can understand it. Because it will tell you why the moon looks the way that it does. Why are there craters on the moon? That's a result of the flood. Why are there shooting stars? That's a result of the flood. Why is there the asteroid belt? Result of the flood. Why do we have a 365-day year rather than the perfect 360-day year that God ordained? That's because of the flood. Why do we have the continents the way that they look? That's because of the flood. Why do we have mountains as high as they are? That's because of the flood. And on and on and on. It's shocking, but it's true. So, table of contents. Look at all this glory for yourself. Okay, this is amazing. Okay, he explains the origin of ocean trenches, earthquakes, and the Ring of Fire, all strata and fossil layers, the Grand Canyon, where limestone all came from, the frozen mammoths, where comets came from, the origin of asteroids, meteoroids, the origin of Earth's radioactivity, and then I'll just read all these questions too. You know, what was the Earth like before the flood? That's the most cool thing to understand, because it tells you how perfect God created everything and how pathetic everything is today compared to what it used to be. The truth is shocking. So I encourage you to dig in and eat up this entire website. Buy the book today. Get the truth pill. Stop feeding yourself junk. I mean, you're either going to heaven or going to hell, and you have one life to live up, to lay up treasure in heaven. So, okay. So I'm going to read this book, and I encourage you to do the same.